Hello class, this is a video tutorial on the introduction to bearings. Bearings are aerial or top view perspectives of problems or scenarios. So before even applying trigonometry to these problems, we must first be able to understand bearings. When working with bearings, a key skill is being able to draw a diagram of a given problem. Now to do this, we must first remember these two primary things. We must first remember the four cardinal directions: north, east, south, west, in a clockwise direction. So I'm sure we've all heard this: never eat soggy Weet-Bix, going clockwise. And we must also know that the cardinal directions are 90 degrees apart. So if this is 0 degrees starting at north, east is exactly 90 degrees apart, south is 180 degrees from north, or it's 90 degrees from east, and west is 270 degrees from north, or it is 90 degrees from south. And if we were to go in a full revolution, it would be 360 degrees from north to north. Now, bearings have two ways to write them. They are written as either true bearings or compass bearings. True bearings always rotate clockwise starting from north, and they are always 3 digits, whereas compass bearings can start from either north or south, whichever might be closer, and they rotate to either east or west. Now, this may not mean much until we get into some examples, so let's do exactly that. Let's go straight into some examples here. I have here 8 different examples where we will write the true bearing and compass bearing of each. So here we go. For this, the true bearing, it always, we always pretend there's a person standing at the middle of the compass and they are facing north. From where they're facing, how many degrees do they need to rotate in order to look at where this end point is? So there's a person here, their eyes are facing this way, and they turn their entire body clockwise until they're facing this direction. Well, in this example, it's very straightforward. It is 62 degrees. So for the true bearing, it would be written as 0, 6, 2 degrees. And some textbooks, they might include a T to it, but 0.62 is enough. Now for the compass bearing, we first ask ourselves, is this point closer to facing north? So is it easier facing north and then turning here? Or is it easier facing south and then turning to that line? Well, in this case, I hope it's very obvious. Starting north is easier. So we know it's going to be north. And then we ask ourselves, which direction do we need to turn to face this point? Well, in this case, we need to rotate towards the east. So it's north something east. And then we ask, how many degrees do we need to turn in order to get to that line? Well, in this case, it would be 62. So the true bearing for this is 0.62 degrees, whereas the compass bearing for this is north 62 degrees east. Let's try it for this next example. Doing the true bearing first. Remember, we're always starting from the middle, facing north for true bearing. And then we ask ourselves, how many degrees do we need to turn in order to face this line? Well, remember that this is 90 degrees, so it would be 90 degrees first to face east, and then a further 34 degrees to face this line. So it would be 90 plus 34. That would be 124 degrees for the true bearing. And now for the compass bearing, we ask ourselves, is this line closer to south or is it closer to north? Well, in this instance, I hope you can see that it's easier to face south first and then turn towards that line. So because it's closer to south, it would be south. And then from south, we're turning towards the east. So south something east. And so now we need to imagine that we're facing south. Oops. That we are facing south, and we need to turn in this direction. How many degrees is that line there? Well, since this is 90 degrees, this missing angle plus this one must add up to 90. So it would be 90 take away 34, which would give us 6, carry the 1. That would be 56 degrees. So it's south, 56 degrees east. That would be the compass bearing for this diagram. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Let's start moving through these a little bit faster. You can pause at any time and give them all a go yourselves. Okay, so let's try this one. Let's do the true bearing first. Remember, true bearing, we imagine we're facing north, and we always have to go clockwise until we face that line. How many degrees is that curve? Well, we know that this is 180, and then we need to turn a further 48 degrees. So that would be 180 plus 48. In that case, it would be 180 plus 48 would be 228 degrees. That would be the true bearing for this. And now for this one, the compass bearing for this, we ask ourselves again, is it closer to south or is it closer to north? In this case, it's very obvious. It's closer to the south. And so we ask, the next thing we ask is, are we turning towards the west or the east? Well, in this case, it's very obvious as we're going west. So imagining we're facing south, how many degrees do we turn in order to face this line? Well, it's already given to us here. That would just be 48 degrees. All right, let's keep moving. Let's do the true bearing again for this diagram. Remembering that true bearings, we must always start from facing north, and we go clockwise. Well, in this instance, we can do this in one of two ways. Continuing the pattern, I hope you're recognizing this. Stopping here would be 270. And then we would then need to add that extra 53 degrees. So this would be 270 plus 53 degrees. That would be 323 degrees as our true bearing. And now for our compass bearing on this, remember we always begin to ask by asking, is this closer to north or is it closer to south? This one's again a little bit more obvious. It's closer to the north, and we know we're turning to the west, so it's north something west. We just now need to figure out what this angle is in that red segment? Well, since we know that this is 53 and this must add up to 90, we can calculate this missing angle by doing 90 take away 53. That would give us 37 degrees. So it would be north 37 degrees west. Now at this point, this is essentially the main concept of true bearing and compass bearing. I'm just going to be doing the remaining 4 examples here. You can fast forward or you can stop the video at this point. But here we go. Let's do all the true bearings first for this one. So doing the true bearings for this. Remember, we're always starting from north and we're turning towards the line. In this instance, we know that this is 72. We need to figure out what this angle is. That angle would be 180 minus 72, which would give us 0.18 degrees. Let's do the compass bearing for this one. We know we're starting from north and we're turning towards the east. And again, we're trying to figure out what angle it is we're going to face that angle. That line, sorry. Well, in that instance, it's the same angle we're looking for. It is 18 degrees. The true bearing for this one, we're starting north and we're going clockwise until we meet that line. So what angle is this? Well, that would be 90 plus this angle. However, we don't know what that angle is. We could calculate it from here, but I hope you've noticed there's another way we can do this, where it would be 180 degrees subtracted by that 18. So take a look. 180 minus that 18 gives us what we're looking for. So 180 minus 18, that would give us 162 degrees. So 162 degrees for our true bearing. As for our compass bearing, in this instance, it's actually a lot easier. We know it's closer to south, and we're turning towards the east. So it's south, something east. And the angle we're looking for from south to east is already shown there as 18 degrees. So it's south 18 degrees east. Once again, for this one, doing the true bearing first. Starting from north, going clockwise, we need to figure out what this angle is. Once again, I hope you can see it would be 270 minus that 23 degrees. So 270 minus 23, that would give us 247 degrees. So the true bearing would be 247 degrees. And for the compass bearing, we ask ourselves, is it closer from north or is it closer from south? In this instance, I hope you can very clearly see it's closer from south, so we're looking for that angle there. So we know it's south, something west, and we need to figure out what that angle is. Well, that would be 90 subtract 23. That would be 67 degrees that we're looking for. So it's south 67 degrees west. And lastly, in the true bearing for this, we're looking for this, well, almost full circle. I hope you can see here that it would be 360 minus 50. That's very straightforward. That's 310 degrees as our true bearing. And for our compass bearing, I hope by now it's very obvious that it's starting from north and we're turning towards the west. So it's north, something west. So what angle is it that we're turning there? In this instance, it's already shown, it would be 50 degrees. So I hope that gave you an introduction, a good introduction to compass bearings and true bearings. Hope to see you in the next video where we start drawing diagrams. Hope to see you then. Best of luck.